Genesis 5, Descendants of Adam. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day when God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them, male and female, and he blessed them and named them man in the day when they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his own image, and named him Seth. Then the days of Adam after he became the father of Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. Seth lived 105 years and became the father of Enosh. Then Seth lived 807 years after he became the father of Enosh, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. Enosh lived 90 years and became the father of Kenan. Then Enosh lived 815 years after he became the father of Kenan, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. Kenan lived 70 years and became the father of Mahalalel. Then Kenan lived 840 years after becoming the father of Mahalalel, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Kenan were 910 years, and he died. Mahalalel lived 65 years and became the father of Jared. Then Mahalalel lived 830 years after he became the father of Jared, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. Jared lived 162 years and became the father of Enoch. Then Jared lived 800 years after he became the father of Enoch, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. Enoch lived 65 years and became the father of Methuselah. Then Enoch walked with God 300 years after he became the father of Methuselah, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Methuselah lived 187 years and became the father of Lamech. Then Methuselah lived 782 years after he became the father of Lamech, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. Lamech lived 182 years, and he became the father of a son. Now he called his name Noah, saying, "This one will give us rest from our work and from the toil of our hands, arising from the ground which the Lord has cursed." Then Lamech lived 595 years after he became the father of Noah, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. Noah was 500 years old, and Noah became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis 5 commentary. There's going to be several of these chapters in the Old Testament which are a bunch of begats, and this guy, had a wife and gave birth to that kid, and there's not a lot to say about most of those chapters. This one does have one really interesting moment that I want to get to, but we're going to see, as you probably already heard, and it's going to get much worse, that pronunciations are going to become more and more difficult as I go. So I have no idea if I'm pronouncing these names correctly. I'm just doing the best that I can with each one of them. But the important moment in this chapter occurs when it talks about Enoch. You see with the other people that it names in the lineage here, there really isn't much said about them. They live this long, then they have a kid, then they live this long, and then they have more kids, and then they die. And by the way, here's how long they lived. Enoch is different. Enoch follows the majority of that pattern, but right in the middle interjects this. Let me do a comparison. So it said Jared lived 162 years. Jared became the father of Enoch. Then Jared lived 800 years after he became the father of Enoch, and blah, blah. Okay. Then we go to Enoch. It says this. Enoch lived 65 years and became the father of Methuselah. Now, right here, it interjects something different right after that first sentence. Then Enoch walked with God. I'll let that sink in for a minute. It doesn't say that about anyone else here. It just says that about Enoch. Now, we know ultimately Noah did, but from just what we're seeing here, this is wildly different than the rest of the page. Remember the old Sesame Street thing? One of these things is not like the other. This is very different. And not only is it very different from this standpoint, it's very different in how it ends. All the other ones end by saying, and then they lived this many years, and then he died. But the one with Enoch says this, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Which is part of the reason why I read it that way in the actual scripture reading, because I think that needs a downbeat like that to sort of call out its significance from the rest of the verses in this particular chapter. There are obvious reasons why this is significant, not the least of which is Enoch apparently did not die. He was just simply not. He was, and then he wasn't, because God took him. Very interesting, very interesting. There is talk that Enoch returns later on with Elijah. There is talk that he becomes one of the two witnesses in Revelation that are set up to witness for God in front of the earth, who is mocking God, and then they are killed and resurrected several days later. There's a lot of talk about what happens to Enoch. We don't exactly know. There are other scriptures with biblical characters that are translated, not actually dead. Whatever the speculation, the bottom line is Enoch was different. And he was different for one reason that we can follow the pattern of, which is we can walk with God the way that Enoch did. And I think that's probably the critical moment from this scripture. Of course, the other critical moment is when it talks about Noah. And we don't, just by reading this chapter, understand Noah's significance, but of course, in the coming chapters, we'll find out all about the significance of Noah.